All right, good afternoon. Let's get it, guys. We got a couple more videos here of cornerbacks. It's a deep cornerback class, especially at the bottom here. I know that these are the dog days of draft evaluations, but it's necessary, and I want to understand every angle possible before we get here. So, another video, another couple of cornerbacks, starting with MJ Devonshire. MJ Devonshire of the Pittsburgh Panthers, 23. Little bit undersized, 5'11", 186 pounds, but he's got long arms, almost 33 inches. 8 3/4 hands. Testing was, right? It's like decent speed, good explosiveness, but change of directions, garbage. So hit and miss, hit or miss, up and down. Um, Big boards, mostly got him around the 6th. CBS has him undrafted. Aggregate has him late 6th, early 7th. 7 interceptions over the last 2 years and 18 passes defense. So he's got big time ball skills. Cannot take that away from him. He can take the ball away. He can make plays on the ball. Uses his length well. That's the thing that stands out about him. He's really good at using his length to make plays on the ball. Most players wouldn't be able to make those plays because he's just so long. He's good at observing the quarterback and reacting to what he sees. He can read the quarterback's eyes. That's one thing you notice, which is why it's nice to leave him in zone. His click and close is good. He moves pretty well in space. He looks like a fluid mover for the most part. And he's got a good press. So we do have the makings here of a pretty promising zone cornerback. I think he might do well in that role because he is cerebral and he transitions from being a backpedaler to launch forward into his click and close so nicely. Now, his change of direction is what the testing says it is. So man coverage is going to be tough. Reactive athleticism is not really his game. He's not a good tackler, and his heart doesn't seem like it's in it. It doesn't seem like he wants to tackle. Definitely a business decision kind of guy. He is a little bit on the smaller side. Just a little. I think he can add a little bit of weight if he needs to and probably mitigate that. And he doesn't have the speed to keep up with faster guys. So clearly, I view him as a zone guy. And there's not necessarily anything wrong with that. But then you have the fact that he doesn't tackle. And I don't think he has the want to do it. So it's hard to get that excited about him despite the really good ball skills. So, going to be a zone guy in the NFL. I think he'll be good in that role. I think he'll be able to play outside and inside, which is great. And I'm liking all these things I'm describing. But then I look at the tackling and I'm like, this is probably not going to work for what Mike Macdonald wants. So I look at Devonshire and I have to conclude that he's like a 5th round value. And he might be 6th round in Seattle because of the tackling problem. It might not be a fit, even though I like a lot of other things. I am having a hard time abiding by that. All right. Next up is Carlton Johnson of Fresno State. Couldn't find his age. 5'11", 173. So he needs to eat a couple of burgers or something. Needs to gain some weight. 30 3/8 arms, 8-inch hands. By the way, 8-inch hands are probably the smallest combine hands I've ever seen. So make of that as you will. These are, I'm pretty sure, significantly smaller than the hands of Kenny Pickett. These hands, that's going to be a problem. Big boards. Walter Football likes him a lot. They put him in the 5th. CBS 7th. ESPN undrafted database puts him in the 7th. Last year had 4 picks. I don't know how he's making interceptions with his small hands, but he finds a way. Good for him. 7 passes defensed. Over the last 2 years, he's got 13 passes defensed. He's got 80 tackles, 82. Pretty decent PFF grades, so there is some production here. He's a good all-around athlete. Now, he needs to be because he is undersized, but he is a good athlete. He didn't test, but he is a good athlete. He can play off a receiver and click and close down rapidly to make a play on the ball. He's somebody who can play off coverage, off man, or sit back in a deep zone, wait, and then just trigger downhill and go get it. His change of direction skills are clean, ability to have reactive athleticism, and his transitions when he flips his hips are good. So I like Carlton Johnson in those regards. I like his ball skills. Like I said, he's got good production on the ball. 5 picks, 13 passes defensed on Fresno State. Pretty good. Now, he is small. I don't know if he's going to be able to play on the outside. When you look at how small he is, when you look at how he's sub 6 feet, when you look at the short arms, he's probably just going to be a slot guy. When he puts his back to the quarterback, his back to the line of scrimmage, and is running deep down the field, like trying to keep up with the receiver and man, it's not so great. He doesn't look comfortable doing it. Tackling is a big problem for him, which makes sense when you're this small. He's not a good tackler, and he doesn't seem all that interested in getting involved in run support. So those two things kind of cardinal sins with what we're dealing with right now, right? So Carlton Johnson, I mean, it's hard to get that up on him when he's small and can't tackle and doesn't want to tackle. I think that some teams out there that maybe don't worry so much about that stuff view him as a ball hawking zone nickel corner, maybe. I could see that. But I'm not really convinced of too much more than that personally. So I think 6th round pick is good. The ball skills are a little too good for me to say lower than that. But I don't know if McDonald would be interested, and I can understand why. There are real limitations here that Carlton's probably never getting away from. Okay, one last guy for this video. This one is really intriguing. Ryan Watts. Ryan Watts should be very interesting to a lot of people. He will probably be available deep in the draft, and I understand why. But there is some very fun stuff with Ryan Watts. Texas Longhorn, 6'3", so he's tall. 208 pounds, so he has size. 34.5-inch arms. He could have been an edge rusher. These are some really long arms for a corner. Freakish. 34.5. 9 3/8-inch hands. So he's a big dude. Testing, I mean, the speed's not great, but when you're this big, it's totally reasonable and understandable. Very good explosiveness. 40.5-inch vert. 10'5" broad. He's got a good 3-cone as well. Had a pretty good 20-yard shuttle. So change of direction is on point. So this guy is a rare athlete at the position. Nevertheless, PFF, 6th. ESPN has him in like the 7th. CBS has him undrafted, and the database has him in the 7th. Why is that? Well, when you look at the stats, it starts to paint a picture here. He's got decent production, 90 tackles over the last 2 years. But 1 pick, 6 passes defensed. On a good Texas team, by the way. A Texas team that forces their opponent to throw the ball a lot, right? So there are opportunities to make plays on the ball, and he's not. PFF grades aren't very good either, by the way. So the pros are very obvious here. He's got remarkable size and remarkable length. Probably bigger. If you put those two things together, all 3 things together, he's probably the biggest cornerback in this draft. He fights hard at the catch point to dislodge the ball. He does. That doesn't always show up as a pass defense if you're not actually getting your hand on the ball, but he does fight hard at the catch point to dislodge it. His change of direction is actually pretty good. He can move fluidly in space, so he's not leaving a lot of things on the table like a lot of the bigger guys are. He's proficient in many types of coverage, so you can do off-man, press-man, zone, and he's got experience with it. And he's a pretty good tackler. He's not afraid to come up and put his shoulder down, lay a hit, not afraid to wrap up and tackle, not afraid to get involved in that regard. So you're not going to have that problem with Ryan Watts. So there's a lot to like here, and I'm intrigued, even without seeing the negatives, even though there's no doubt that there are certainly some negatives when talking about Ryan Watts. So he's probably only going to be able to play a little man coverage in the NFL because he's not fast and he's not quick. So if you're asking him to play a lot of man coverage, it's going to go bad. His ball production in the college football was bad, like I said. It's a little bit suspicious. Like, in theory, he should be able to bat down 8 passes a game. Look at how long he is. He should be like Freddy Krueger out there. He's not. Sometimes he gives lackadaisical effort and loses technique for no reason. It's like he just kind of space cadets it. There's no real rhyme or reason to it. He doesn't get distracted by the quarterback. He just has these bad reps. Not going to work in the NFL. So there are issues here. So we're all about potential here. I imagine Pete Carroll would have really liked the opportunity to mold Ryan Watts as a cornerback, and Mike McDonald might like the idea too. I think what he brings could be really, really good in a zone scheme. A primarily zone scheme, I think, can get a lot of good out of Ryan Watts. So I can't go higher than a 5th rounder because he was so ineffective in college. But I'm putting a 5th round grade on him, which is higher than most people because I do believe that there is real potential here that people are sleeping on. All right. One more video on cornerbacks, guys. Keep an eye out for it later today. I will see you guys in a couple hours. Might be on Twitch later, might not. I've been staying away from the Twitch so I can finish up this draft stuff. I hope everybody who does like watching me on Twitch understands. See you guys later. Go Hawks.